Hi guys, welcome back to Inktober. I am back from my vacation, and of course that means I am way behind on Inktober work. So I'm going to attempt, or at least my original intent with this piece, was going to attempt to do it all in one sitting. I don't think that's possible right now since I didn't realize there was a whole lot of other stuff that I had to catch up on before starting this piece. So now it is almost 4 o'clock in the evening. I'm going to try and finish as much of this as possible right now. I do have a dinner to go to, and then I'm going to try and hop back on afterwards to finish everything up. So I'm hoping to get the sketch done at least. And I've been really excited for this one. This is Inktober day 4, and we are doing the Headless Horseman. I've been really excited for this one. I was a horse girl when I was a kid, so very, very eager to draw a horse. It is a little bit intimidating though, because I definitely do not draw landscape scenes that often, if ever. So I've been a little bit worried about that. But I think if we just jump into it and don't think too much about it, everything's gonna turn out fine. So the thing with this one, I don't think I have any use for my ruler on this piece because there's not a lot of perspective work going on here, and the perspective work that is happening is all like mountains and trees and nature, and nature pretty famously doesn't have any straight lines in it. So I think this is going to be the first one that I can kind of freehand fully, which I am excited about. Very eager to be able to kind of let go of the ruler and do my own thing. I don't really know on these trees. Where's my eraser? I've lost it. I take 1 week off and everything's gone. Oh, you know what? I think I took it with me. I think I took my erasers with me on vacation because I brought a sketchbook along with me and I wanted to make sure I didn't run out of eraser, but I should have. An extra one. Anyway, I'm not entirely sure of these side trees. I've kind of sketched out some like pine trees here, but I'm kind of thinking it'll be a little easier on my sanity to do maybe like an oak tree or something I'm a little more familiar with. Because I do draw trees on occasion, but I don't ever draw pine trees unless I'm just doing like a scribbly thumbnail. So I kind of think it might be better to draw one of these like fluffier trees. And that'll give us a little bit more framing too. So the thing is, because I have like an oak tree or one of these fluffier trees over here, I don't want to put a pine tree on this side. I want to kind of mimic that fluffiness, but the tree's taking over like the whole top of the canvas here. So I think what would be better is if I just do kind of like a bush over to this side, and that'll still give me my framing that I want. But now instead of being like framed on 2 sides, I have something framing the top right corner and something framing the bottom left corner. And I think that makes things a little bit more balanced. There are a couple little grass tufts in here as well. And I think a couple rocks just to indicate the trail that the horseman is going to be riding on. That's pretty good. Okay. I'm debating whether I want to draw the background first or I want to draw the horseman first. I've been doing the background first on most of these pieces, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and start with that. And I do want to do some nice like mountain ranges. Make it look like he's really in the thick of nature. I have like a sunset in the original picture, but I don't really want to mess with the lighting on that. So I think I am going to include the clouds, but the sun itself is not going to be in the picture. Simply because I do not know how to use lighting when it comes to ink. That is very scary. So get some of these clouds in here. Make sure not to confuse them with the fluffy tree that I've just put over here. I'll add some more details to the tree to make it look more like leaves. And then my favorite trick with drawing clouds, I'm sure a lot of people know this, but someone out there is bound to benefit from it, is the closer to the horizon you get with clouds, the flatter the bottoms are gonna be. So if I'm drawing clouds all the way down here, right at the mountain line, I'm gonna want like a really flat, really thin cloud. But then clouds closer to the top of the page are gonna be a lot more fluffy. And this is because of atmospheric pressure and whatnot. There's like a whole science that goes into it, but basically just like look up pictures of clouds and you'll notice this phenomenon. It just helps to make your clouds look a little more realistic. Just drawing these little bushes in the background here to kind of separate the trail from the far background, which is gonna be the mountains and the trees back there. And I think I am gonna stick to pine trees for the far background, even though I drew this fluffy oak tree here. Because the pine trees, I feel like I can get a lot more texture with them. The oak tree looks like these bushes. It's the same kind of like fluffy leaves. So I feel like putting pine trees in the background is just gonna give me a little bit more texture, a little bit more interest. I have a feeling these pine trees will be mostly one solid color. I'm not really planning to put much detail into them, mainly because I don't want the focus of this piece to be taken away from the rider. So we're just doing some very generic, very low detail pine trees to kind of break some things up. And then last thing I want to do the background is just add a little bit of texture to the mountains. I've actually drawn mountains quite a few times before, and I've found the trick to them is to just kind of put random highlights wherever you feel like it's necessary. You can do a lot of these like zigzaggy patterns and get a good like 3D looking mountain. There's not much of a science to it other than to just like keep in mind where your light source is, but this is just how I draw them. All right, that's the background pretty much finished. There is like a little bit of a blank spot right here that I'm not super happy with. Obviously, I've left a little bit of a blank space in the middle to put my lovely Headless Horseman, but this spot over here is kind of bothering me a little bit because it does feel like something needs to be there. I'm just not sure what. I don't know yet what shade I'm going to draw the background trees because in my head, I always think of like background pine trees as a pure black color, and I think that's from those old like Bob Ross videos where he would just paint with a single brush stroke the pine trees. He would just go back and forth on them, and he always started with black, which is why I think that's kind of an association in my head. But logically, I think they should probably be maybe the dark gray color. I have black, dark gray, and light gray. The mountains and clouds I think are definitely going to be light gray. The trees should probably be that dark gray color, and then maybe these trees in the foreground as well, just to kind of sandwich things in. Anyway, background sketch is done. Time to move on to our rider. This now I'm a little nervous about this because I've drawn in the background and I don't want to ruin it, but we gotta draw our lovely little horseman here. I'm trying to make these videos shorter. I really am. I'm trying so hard not to hit the 45-minute mark like I have been consistently for the past 3 videos. But it's become really difficult, I've found, to not like try and fill the space of me drawing with talking. I think that's just a side effect of streaming, is I wanna talk. I do stream on Twitch, by the way. If you wanna catch me over there, you can find me under the name Threadwing. More about that at the end of this video. But yeah, I think you guys would actually be surprised by how much just pointless chatter I actually cut out of the first 3 videos, and they're still 45 minutes to an hour long. Anyway, I just wanted to share one more fun little thing, and then I'll probably try and speed through this sketch of the horse and rider. But I was a horse girl as a kid, as I mentioned earlier in this video, so it's kind of, I've been looking forward to this because I don't think I've actually drawn a horse since maybe college, if that, but I used to draw them all the time as a kid. That's kind of what happens when you combine the horse kid and the artistic kid, is you get a lot of horse art. So I'm not using a reference for this for 2 reasons. One, I feel confident enough in my ability to draw a horse that I feel as though I don't need one. And the second reason is, like all the other pieces, I kind of want to keep this one a little bit more cartoony, so using a reference would definitely give me a bit more of a realistic horse, I think, which is not what I want. But yeah, been looking forward to this one because I wanted to draw a horse. You know, I've realized as I've been doing this series, I used to draw like this. Like this, I used to only ever draw with graphite and like sometimes ink before I was a digital artist, before I had my first like tablet and digital art program. And then I just kind of lost the techniques along the way, but doing these Inktober series, and especially this year for some reason, I really feel the old like muscle memory kind of coming back to me, and that's really exciting. Like I've gotten so used to using, say, the lasso tool specifically, that when I make a mistake where I draw something fine, it's just in the wrong place, my first instinct is to grab a lasso tool and put it in the right place. But obviously I can't do that with traditional art, and I'm kind of feeling that instincts start to go away and be replaced with like solutions that I used to do when I was younger, when I used to only use traditional mediums. I would say, oh, this horse's leg is too far forward. Let me erase the leg lightly so that I can kind of see where it was before. And then that way I have like a visual reference of where I need to move it back from. And those kinds of like solutions and techniques, they're kind of coming back to me, and it feels very cool. All right, we are just about finished with the horse here. So now we have to draw what I think is the more difficult part, the rider. And I don't think the rider is the more difficult part because it's a human form. I think it's a little more difficult because drawing a character in perspective to a horse is a lot more difficult than a lot of people think. Like, you either make them way too big, way too small, sitting really far up or really far back, just awkwardly. So to try and combat that, I went ahead and drew the entirety of the saddle on this horse. So we have the stirrup down here, which is where the rider's foot is going to sit. And of course we have the saddle where the rider's hips and rear are going to sit. And I think just by using that, I can kind of judge like the proportions of the leg, and then that should help me with the proportions for the rest of the character. That's kind of like my technique that I'm banking on here. So instead of starting with the head like I normally do, I'm actually going to start with the outline for the hips. I've got a foot here, and then I just kind of need to connect those. I don't want the knee going too far forward. Here we are. And then just kind of flesh out that skeleton that I just made. Okay, there we go. There's his leg. Let me erase that so you can see it a little better. All right, that is our rider's leg. And then I think from the hips here, I can actually get a good idea for how big I want the torso to be. And like I can already tell this is way smaller than what I thought I was going to draw. I was probably going to do the head like somewhere around here, make it about this big. And like, obviously that's way too big. So I'm glad I started with the legs just to give me a little bit of proportion control. Oh, actually he doesn't have a head anyway, so I don't even need to worry about that. He does, however, I thought this idea was so cute, have his little jack-o'-lantern pumpkin under his arm, and that is going to be wearing a Stetson, which is just hands down the hardest hat in the world to draw. So don't judge me on that one. When I first envisioned this piece, I kind of wanted him like looking out into the mountains to kind of appreciate the scenery. But then as I was drawing the thumbnail, I realized that's not really possible because he doesn't have a head. So instead I came up with this little like jack-o'-lantern Stetson idea. Actually kind of regretting how small I'm making this character. It's kind of hard to see some of the finer details, but I did put him in what I see as a typical trail riding outfit, and that is a plaid button-down shirt and jeans. And I gave him cowboy boots as well. But yeah, it's kind of hard to see those details because the character is so small. It's too bad. But also, the character is too small because the horse is too small, and I don't think I could have made the horse much bigger than this without it like taking up too much room. I don't know, it's just one of those things about traditional art that makes me really appreciate digital art, because at the sketching phase like this, I am always moving things around to get the perfect composition. But I think the sketch is just about finished. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time off camera kind of refining everything. I'm gonna go to my dinner, and then I will come back here to work on the line art. And hopefully I can get that done this evening so I can get the video edited tomorrow. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. Hi guys. So I know I promised I would be back later last night to finish this, and it is clearly the next day, so my apologies. However, I am getting an early start on this today, so I do expect to finish it probably before noon, which is awesome. That means I can spend the rest of the day working on the video, and I can get a little bit ahead on scheduling some things. But here is the finished sketch, and I believe it is time to move on to inking. The only thing that I'm just a little bit concerned about is the horseman does look very tiny compared to the rest of the piece. And I don't really know what to do about that. There doesn't really seem to be anything to do aside from redoing the horse and the horseman, which I don't know. I'm kinda, you know what? Here, instead of starting inking, because now I'm looking at this fresh again, I think I am just gonna redo the horseman and make him a little bit bigger than he should be. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to get rid of like the bottom half of his legs from the shin down and make that a little bit longer, and then redo his torso as well. I think part of the reason he's looking so small is because he doesn't have a head. And the head does add quite a bit of height. If he did have a head, he would probably be this tall. Yeah, so I'm just gonna bring that leg down a little bit, make him a little lankier. It's been quite a while since I took a riding lesson, but I do remember needing to like press my heel down a lot. So maybe this is closer to the right height for him. Because I think in the previous pose, his toes were below his heels, which I don't think is correct. I think your heels need to be lower. I am kind of futzing on the stirrups. I don't really know what they're supposed to look like, but we're here now. Gotta work with what we got. Okay, so that's his leg longer. I think, should I just erase the full torso? I feel like that might be the best course of action. Start fresh. Even though I wouldn't give up my lasso tool for anything, there is a little bit of a sense of relief when you do decide to just completely start over. You know you don't really have to mess with things anymore. That's kind of fun. I'm noticing I'm gonna have to be a little bit more careful with my sketches because as I'm erasing this, I can still, like I erased that pretty hard and I can still kind of see the sketch lines underneath it. So I just need to go a little lighter, be a little careful with that. Okay, and I think I'm gonna start with the pumpkin head here. Just get that in the right spot and then just kind of sketch out the armature again. I can't tell if I've made him bigger or not. I think I did. I think he's a little bit taller now. Okay, I'm not entirely sure how much of a difference that made. I guess I'll see it when I edit this. I don't think he looks bad. I just think it looks a little small in comparison to the rest of the piece. I actually like that pumpkin head a lot better. Okay, so I think with that, we're about ready to start inking. Let me sketch in this hand a little more clearly. I have a feeling this is gonna be a really messy sketch to follow. I just put a lot in here and I can't even see what's still like messy ankeanymore. I think I'm just gonna have to go in with the ink and do my best. All right, so we can put the pencils aside. Let's start with our microns. I keep forgetting which pen I start with. I'm pretty sure I start with the 03, right? Yeah, it seems like a good size. And I think I'm definitely going to start with lining the horse and the horseman. That's definitely where I'm going to start. And then I think I might also make this like mid-ground black as well. So like we've got the rocks here, the bushes here, and the trail. I don't know what I'm gonna do for the foreground, like the tree here and this bush. Part of me really wants to use the dark gray for those so that it kind of sandwiches the perspectives. They look a little bit more out of focus because they're closer to you. I'm definitely going to use the dark gray for the pine trees and then the light gray for the mountains and the clouds behind it. But I think I'm gonna leave the foreground for last because I'm not entirely sure what I wanna do with that yet. So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and do this pumpkin. I kind of gave up on drawing a realistic cowboy hat because it's squashed under his arm anyway. You wouldn't be able to tell. So I'm just making sure he's like got a hat on. And I think I'm gonna do a lot of speed throughs of the inking on this one because trust me, I really did try to cut down the recording time on this piece. I don't want to keep making 45-minute long videos for every Inktober entry, but I do know I babbled through most of it. So I think I'm gonna try and make up that time in this inking stage and kind of speed through most of it. All right, we have our horse, we have our horseman. The next step, I think is going to be doing the rest of this foreground. Just doing a little bit of shading on the horse here. There we go. Okay. I'm still really wanting to do the foreground first, just so that I don't like accidentally draw over it. I'm just still not sure if I want to do it with the dark gray or if I want to do it with the black. I think I'm leaning very heavily towards the dark gray. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and bite the bullet and just do the foreground in that dark gray color. And that way I can kind of get it out of the way. And I'm pretty sure this is gonna look really good. So let's go ahead and work on the foreground before doing the rest of the midground here, because I'm just scared that in places like this where I have to draw these like tiny details, I'm scared that I'm gonna draw them over where the foreground should be. So I wanna get the foreground done first. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, I think that was a very good decision to do the foreground in that dark gray color. To be honest, I kind of forget how dark this gray actually is. I always assume it's a lot lighter, so I'm a lot more scared to use it, just in case it turns out too light, but I think that is perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead, I think I'm gonna color in some of these little grass tufts down here with the gray pen also, color, outline. And then I'll do these rocks, the edge of the trail here, and then these bushes in the black line art, and then we're gonna go back to the dark gray to do these trees. Hopefully this like speeding through the line art recording style is working for you guys. I won't really know until I start editing this, but it's definitely saving a lot of time. I'll tell you that much. All right, so I decided instead of breaking up the pathway at the bottom here by doing half of it black and half of it gray, I decided it would be a better idea to do everything in front of the horse gray and everything behind the horse black. And I think that worked out. I think if I had done these rocks on the pathway in black, you would have seen too noticeable of a difference between the gray and the black, so I like how that turned out. I just have the mountains and the sky left to do, so I figured I would turn the face cam back on and chat with you guys while I do that, since we're just finishing up here. But a few things. One, I decided not to outline these trees back here, and I think I'm gonna fill in the trees with the brush pens, and I'm just going to fill in behind the horse with the brush pens as well without defining those trees down there, because I think it's going to make the horse stand out a bit more. I definitely don't want it to get lost in the tree outlines. This light pen is actually really difficult to use because it's almost exactly the same color as the graphite, so it's kind of hard to tell where, like what's already been inked. I'm just gonna kind of go as rough as I can on these mountains though, because I want them to look pretty rocky. Yeah, I guess after the outline I do still have to do the brush pen, so I'm not quite finished yet, but figured I'd just come back and check in on y'all while I was doing the rest of the line art. I'm actually really excited for this piece. I have not drawn a horse in a good long while, and I never draw scenery pieces, or I especially never draw scenery with like graphite and ink. If I'm gonna do a landscape, I'll usually try to paint it, but God, I haven't picked up a paintbrush in probably since like 2016. I would like to get back into painting. My biggest issue with paints is it's just so messy. There's so much you have to clean up afterwards. That's why I like digital so much, and I think I've said this multiple times before, but once you're done with digital, you turn off the computer and that's your cleanup. Even with just Inktober stuff, I have like pens and pencils that I have to put away, but even that's not too bad. You just find where they're supposed to go and drop them in. But with paint is so messy because you have to have your palette that you have to keep clean. You have to clean up your water. You have to clean up your paints oftentimes if they get too mixed up, like if you're using watercolor or something. Who am I kidding? I never use watercolor. If there is one medium on this earth that I am absolutely terrified to attempt to use, it's probably watercolor. I'll even take alcohol markers over watercolor. It's just, and I don't have anything against the people that use it. I'm absolutely in awe of the skills of anyone that can wrangle watercolor paints are just so scary. Usually I like putting a lot of detail into my clouds, but I think I'm just gonna keep these ones as simple as possible. It's so difficult to tell what I've already drawn over. I don't know how well this camera is picking up the quality, but it looks like I'm going over the graphite with an even lighter graphite. And I know it'll look amazing at the end of the piece because I've done this so many times now and it always looks so cool. But right now it's just really hard to see. I'm debating whether or not I want to shade the mountains. Like these little carved out sections that I made, usually I'll go in with some like cross hatching or shading on those. I think, because I don't want there to be too much texture in the background, kind of distracting from the main character. So maybe, I think I'll shade those with the light gray brush is what I think I'll do. Before we go in with the brushes though, I do still have to do the outline on the character. And that's with this big boy. Oh, look at this nice, lovely light coming in behind me. Oh, my face camera is running out of battery. So I think I'm gonna speed through the outline, charge my face camera, and then I'll meet you guys back here for coloring in with the brush part, okay? See you in a bit. Alrighty, welcome back you guys. It is finally time to erase the magnitude of sketch marks that I have on this piece and start finishing it up. I'm actually really excited for this one. I absolutely love how it turned out. I'm really excited especially to start coloring in like the trees in the background because I think once I get those a nice dark color, there'll be a nice little separation between the midground and the background. So I'm really, really excited to see how that turns out. Ooh, boy. This one is done top to bottom, so the erasing is very, very strenuous. There's a lot to do. Gotta make sure I get every single inch of this paper. Switch hands for a minute. Left hand never does as good of a job, but sometimes the right hand just needs a break. All right, I'm pretty sure I've gotten just about everything, but I can go over it a second time if need be. I need like a little makeup brush, like one of those big fluffy ones to get all the eraser shavings off the paper. Ooh, it looks so good though. Oh, I love the background. That light gray color really helps to make things feel like they're really far away. Oh, very happy with it so far. And despite the fact that I was a little haphazard with the sketching, things got a little bit too dark. It all seemed to erase away pretty nicely, so I think it's time to get started with the brushes. Means we're almost done. So excited. I think I'm gonna start with the dark gray this time, specifically because I want to color in those pine trees. I want to see, I've got like an idea of just doing some kind of sweeping brush strokes so that it looks like there's some pine branches inside there instead of doing the usual like straight up and down. Because I kind of did something similar with the clown's hair on the last piece, the Frankenstein's monster Inktober. I tried to go in like a circular motion to get that like afro texture, and it seemed to work really well. So I think if I just try and keep the brush strokes in this kind of triangular pattern so that they look like pine trees, I think that looks pretty good. It definitely looks like it's got some texture in there. I am gonna speed through these because I was editing the footage that I had while I was waiting for my camera to charge, and it's about 30 minutes long currently, so I'm gonna try and keep this last section pretty short as well so that I hopefully don't hit the 45-minute mark. All right, I do want to continue going quickly on this, but I wanted to stop and point out how amazing that effect looks. I am so satisfied with this. It reminds me of a watercolor, which is so like impressive to me, seeing as I was complaining about how difficult watercolor is like 2 minutes ago, but I digress. I think that's very, very fun. I love it very much. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the mountains next, just because I have an idea in my head of how to do those, and then I'll move forward into the foreground. So speeding through that as well. All right, well that is the background pretty much done. So now I just need to do the coloring and the shading on the character themselves. I was planning all along to do like a darker color for the horse, but now that I'm looking at the trees in the background, I don't want the horse to kind of get lost in those. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the horse white and then color in the points. So the hooves, the mane, and the tail with the light gray color, just to give it a little contrast from the body, but that way it hopefully won't be blending in too much with the background. I'm gonna try and use the same kind of flicking technique that I did with the trees to hopefully work with the texture of the micron brushes and give a little bit of like a hair effect. Not expecting too much from it, but at the very least I want to try and avoid the straight stripy lines that I got for the first few pieces. I also did in the tree here, and I think I kind of ruined my brush pen doing this, but I colored in the entirety of the leaves, save for this little like outline on the outside of them to hopefully show a little bit of a highlight. And then I went back in again after that had all dried and just did these little random spots to hopefully give the impression of like some individual leaves. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm really experimenting a lot with brush textures on this piece. That's kind of the whole point of Inktober for me, is to mess around with different mediums and figure out how they work and what I can do with them. Yeah, I like that. Trying to leave the teeniest of spaces kind of in the center as a little bit of like a highlight to the mane and tail hair, just to add a little bit of dimension, a little bit of purposefulness. Okay, I think I might color in the bridle and saddle with the same pen, because I don't want anything getting lost in the trees in the background. Although I do have to be a little bit careful in areas like this where the saddle is the same color as the mountains. Maybe I can go over it again and get a little bit of a darker color. Let's try that. Ever so slightly darker. That way it's a little bit distinguishable from the mountains behind it. I like that. That turned out real well. I'm gonna do the same thing on the cinch here, get that a little darker, and then I'm gonna do the saddle blanket, just one go, so it's more of the lighter gray. There we go. All right, horse is done, looking good. I think I'll add a couple little like shading pieces in a little bit, but I wanna focus on our main man here. I think for the most part, he's pretty good. I'm wondering if I should do him in the darker gray. Like at the very least, maybe do the pants the darker gray so that it stands out against the saddle and it looks like a little bit darker, because obviously the Headless Horseman is supposed to be a very dark, spooky character. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the boots in the lighter gray. All right, and I'm gonna switch back to the dark gray. I need a bit more dark gray in this piece anyway. Ooh, like for example, these are supposed to be dark. The little cutout sections of the bush. Yeah, that actually helps bring a lot of dimension to those bushes. Okay, and then I'm gonna give him black pants. I'm gonna try and leave a little bit of a highlight. I might go over that highlight with the darker gray, because keeping it stark white like that kind of makes it look like he's got leather pants on. Like it looks shiny. And I don't think I want that. I don't think the Headless Horseman is the type of guy to wear leather pants trail riding. Let me just go over that in the lighter gray. There we go. That already looks a lot better. And I think that means, ooh, actually I wonder, because I was kind of picturing the shirt to be like a flannel shirt, and I kind of wonder if I can do like a little bit of a plaid pattern on it. Is that too risky? I'm gonna do it anyway. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just kind of need to get the point across. And then I think, well, it's more of a gingham than a true plaid, but it gets the point across at least. You can definitely tell what it's supposed to be. That's really cool, actually. I love the effect that the microns are giving that. A friend told me recently that microns are actually water-based instead of alcohol-based, which is why you get the like streakiness when you go over them so many times. And to be honest, I had no idea that the base of a marker would affect that. And now thinking logically, like, well, of course it would affect that. That's why there's alcohol-based markers, to avoid that problem. However, I'm really enjoying kind of working with it and like learning to manipulate it to get certain effects that I want, like the trees, the leaves. The gingham looks really, really good. I need to define the pumpkin a little bit more. I think I'm gonna color in carved bits just to get a little bit more of the darker colors in here. And then I think I actually might go in with the light gray, like thin micron, and I'm gonna use this to do little ridges. There we go. I don't know if that really works or not. It kind of makes it look more like a pumpkin. I like it. And then I think the hat just needs a little bit more definition, just so you can kind of see that something's there at least. Okay, and that's it for the coloring. Now I'm just gonna do a little bit of shading everywhere. Oh, I forgot the stirrup here. Maybe I can make that a darker color as well. I've got like 3 pens in my hands. I wanna mess with the shirt more. I wanna take the thinner light gray and do some thin lines on there, but I feel like I'm gonna screw it up. It looks really good right now. I don't wanna risk messing it up, so I'm gonna leave it as is. I'm just gonna leave it, it's fine. I think we're done though. I think that's about it. I love it. This is, each time I finish a piece, I say it might be my favorite piece, but like, I feel like I'm just getting better and better, to be honest. Not to toot my own horn here. I think the only thing that I'm kind of regretting is not doing the foreground in black, because I feel like I'm losing it a little bit. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Should I have done the foreground in the black micron, or is the dark gray micron fine? Let me put these away real quick and then we'll peel this off. I did make sure when I was taping this one down that I stuck the tape to the drafting table first. And, oh, I was about to say it seems like it's making a difference, but it did just capture a little bit of the paper there. I feel like it made a little bit of a difference though. It's definitely not like ripping the paper off like it did on the first piece, except for that one section. You know what? I should sign these. I keep forgetting that signing your art is actually a really good idea and I should be doing that, but all right, there she is. That is my Headless Horseman on a Trail Ride Inktober piece. Very, very happy with that one. Absolutely love the textures that I got with the micron brushes. The next Inktober is going to be posted on Tuesday, and that is going to be the Swamp Monster, which was actually the inception of this challenge. I had an idea for the Swamp Monster and it kind of snowballed into this whole Inktober theme, so look forward to that one. If you want to see this piece in full, it is available on my Instagram right now. You can head on over there to check that out. I'm also posting a speed drawing of this piece to my TikTok and right here on my YouTube shorts. That's going to be posted the exact same time that this video is. If you want to catch me live sometime, I do stream on Twitch. I try to stream every Tuesday and Friday, although usually my schedule's all over the place. So I could throw in some bonus streams, I could miss some streams, but I'm almost always streaming on Tuesdays, so watch out for that. And if you want to support me and my content in the best way possible, you can check me out on Patreon. You can support me for as little as $1 a month and you get exclusive content for as little as $3 a month. All those socials can of course be found under the name Threadwing. That's about all I have to say. I really have to get this video edited. So I guess last but not least, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can find your way back here for the next video. I'm putting out new videos every Tuesday and Saturday for the month of October. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I will see you all on Tuesday. Bye!